What's going on, everybody? It's PJ North here. We are back at Around the Mat. It is episode 6. I'm super pumped to be here. It's going to be a good time. We're going to talk about all things wrestling, AEW Revolution last week. Going to go over our pick'ems. Of course, me and Danny are back and returning, so we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about the Rock and Roman segments. We're going to talk about Cody and Seth. Plus, I've got another new segment that I'm installing this week, which I have not done yet. I'm super pumped about it. And, of course, we've got One Has to Go, special edition this week. And we've got the best of the worst as we go through the worst parts of characters' gimmicks or title belts or whatever we've talked about already, but you got to pick the best of the worst, so we're going to do that this week as well. I've got 2 new ones, bringing it to them. And we've got some new people this week, which I'm super pumped to introduce. So, without further ado, we are back at Around the Mat, and I've got in the top right, my man, Danny Tank from the Card Foundation podcast and Filthbomb Breaks. Danny Tank, what's up, baby?
What's going on? Happy to be back another week. I think there was a tie last week, so I guess technically I'm co-defending the title.
Yeah, I'll think about giving you the title belt. I don't know. It depends. I'm the booker in this segment, so. Down in the bottom right, we've got my man back again, Freddie Fresh. Freddie, what's the good word, baby?
What's happening, PJ? Glad to be back on the pod. Glad to talk some more wrestling. Big week that we just had in the world of sports and entertainment, so here to talk all about it.
Hell yeah. And then in the bottom left, we got a brand new participant. Fresh off of his Performance Center debut, it's Dustin Perie. Dustin, what's the good word, my man? He is from Smash Wrestling. He's also from Northern Crown. And he's got his own podcast as well called 43.6. Dustin Perie, the Canadian, welcome to Around the Mat.
Thank you for having me. I really hope the Canadian in me can provide a different vibe to the whole.
You can't be any better or any worse than my favorite indie referee, Brad Myers, but nonetheless, we are happy to have you back here again Around the Mat. I am PJ North. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, shout out. Thanks for watching live. Again, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at AroundTheMatPod. We're posting reels, the best clips of all the things. So we'd love to see you, love to hear your feedback, comments, all that good stuff is welcome. Plus, I'm producing this myself. So if you guys see some things you want me to change or want us to fix, we'd love to do that. Without further ado, let's get into it. Before we get into it, it is officially Kazuchika Okada week as the Rainmaker hath arrived in AEW, and it is all things Okada for me today. I've got my Okada, my other shirt. I've got my Super 7 Kazuchika Okada figure with the jacket and the dollar bills. You guys got to see it. And my in-ring art Kazuchika Okada, got to get that in there, drop-kicking Ishii. So we are all things Okada here. Before we get into it, I didn't put on a topic, but does anybody have any thoughts about Okada making his way into AEW this week and getting like the largest contract of all time? Someone called him the Shohei Ohtani in the wrestling group chat, which I thought was hilarious. A little racist because he's Asian as well, but nonetheless, my guy, Kazuchika Okada, hath arrived. Anybody got feedback? Not you, Fred. You don't count.
I'll hop right in. It's I wanted him to go to WWE. I said it on this podcast. Interesting that they start him off as a heel and align him with the Young Bucks. I mean, it makes sense that he goes with the Bucks. A little history in New Japan there, but I just thought he was going to get that huge reaction, and it would have been typical of a company to introduce him as a face. So I'm curious to see how it aligns as the bad guy coming in.
All right, Dustin. What about you, man? What are your thoughts on it?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. First of all, I'm begging AEW to promote a debut. To say, this guy is coming, this guy is coming.
Okay.
You're going to care about this guy because he's coming, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a fan that they need to get, and it needs to be a casual fan. And the casual fan has no clue who Kazuchika Okada is. We all know. We all love wrestling.
Sure,
we get it,
sure.
We're in the echo chamber. But I kind of wish they would promote this thing and make it a bigger deal. And then instead of everything just being a surprise, this guy's here, you know?
That makes sense. Okay, I get that. That makes sense for sure.
I'm just going to step in here and say that Dustin needs to be on the podcast every week from now on.
Fred, what are your thoughts though on Okada debuting? Any thoughts?
Look, I mean, it's cool. I'm not gonna lie and say I'm like I mean, obviously I know who he is. I can't say I've seen his matches. He did a couple things I believe in AEW prior, not obviously as part of the roster, but other than that, I really can't say I've seen anything of his. But it's good for them, you know. But again, like any other debut that they've had, listen, from a fan perspective, it's cool, and I get that. And,
yeah,
you know, that's what we are, fans. But from a business perspective, I don't think it's really going to make a difference. Nobody that they've brought in has made a difference. Even as somebody as big as Edge has not made a difference in the company. So it's cool if you're watching the program and you're a fan, you know, which is what we are. But I look at it a little bit more than that, and
that's fair.
It's cool, but I don't think it's going to make a difference as far as the financials are concerned, or their success, or you know, or lack thereof for AEW.
Sure. Well, you're starting off with -2 points because you don't love Okada like I do. I'm sorry, that's just part of it.
I don't love Okada. Listen.
Well, it's fine. You've never seen him wrestle in Japan. You don't get a say, and I'm the judge of this show, which means you get -2 points to start, Fred.
2 points. Let's see if I like Okada.
Listen, would I get extra points if I said I saw Kazuchika Okada years before anyone even knew who he was? So
no, unfortunately, because he wrestled as because he was terrible. You know what's so funny is Whip, right? Whip we have a guy in our group chat, Whip, and he's like, "Man, I loved him when he was Okada," and I was like, "No, you didn't. No one loved that gimmick. He was no one liked it in TNA. I didn't even like it in TNA. Okay, and I liked everything TNA did back
before TNA.
So you're talking like pre-excursion.
I mean, I have the DVD on this shelf here somewhere. I don't remember exactly what year.
All right, I'm going to give you points.
Something like
I don't know if I believe you. First timer points. I'll give you that.
But basically, what it was an independent show that had Jushin Thunder Liger and Ultimo Dragon on it.
Okay.
And they brought Kazuchika Okada with them. This kid no one's ever heard of. He was wearing just plain black trunks.
Yeah, he's in his young boy gear.
To like a young Randy Orton kind of thing.
Okay.
And we were all impressed, but like he was just a guy in black tights, right? And
right.
Of course, he went on to be incredible. So, anyways.
No, that's what's crazy, and this will be the last point before we get into it. Again, with the Okada thing, I became a huge Okada fan when I had always kind of like somewhat watched New Japan when I could, when you could tape trade, get DVDs, whatever. But when he did return from excursion and became the Rainmaker, I just thought that was like I thought they did a great job with their presentation of it. Also, New Japan was just like peaking at that point, right? I mean, 12 and moving forward from 12 on, they were really just like hitting a stride. They were getting everybody. They started the Forbidden Door thing where everybody was coming over, then AJ Styles and Bullet Club was popularizing and all of those things. They were really hitting on all cylinders with that. So, needless to say, I'm super pumped about Okada debuting at AEW. I hope he gets the good thing is with the Young Bucks, so he doesn't really have to talk for at least the next 4 to 5 months. He really doesn't have to say anything. And I know that that's a big struggle with a lot of wrestlers when they do transfer over. Shin struggles with it now with he doesn't have what I call comedic timing. He sometimes just says things awkwardly, and Adam Pearce is like, I think you're supposed to say something else, but you want me to talk now? Okay, great. And so, I hope that Okada, can adjust, but I'm excited to see him wrestle here. More often, it's going to be easier to see him wrestle every week as opposed to events on the weekend. But with all that to be said, we'll get into the pod now. It's topic time. So, topics. This week, again, last week we were able to do AEW Revolution. We had our pick'ems. Even though Fred was not here, Fred did watch. He joined in with the likes of us to watch the show. Danny, me and you did pretty good, and Brad lost. So that's really all that matters, honestly. I can't believe we got all of them wrong. I can't believe we all got Swerve wrong. Actually, I think you picked Joe. I picked Swerve. I was super unhappy about that. Overall, for the show, I thought it was amazing, right? It's one of those things where it's like, AEW pay-per-view wise, man, it didn't feel like it drug on this time, which was really great, even though it was long. I just think they did such a great job. Ospreay's match is just, I think Ospreay and Takeshita are so good. And I get I get the story of it again because I watch Japanese wrestling. I get all that stuff. Plus Fletcher coming out, which led to the Dynamite match, I thought was exceptional. So all that to be said, I thought the pay-per-view was really, really good. I could do without the 0 hour being an hour and a half long and the 12-man tag match that doesn't mean anything. All of that stuff. But otherwise, I really, really liked it. And so, yeah, we did pretty good on the pick-em. Unfortunately, there was no title to be won because Miguel just refuses to do anything for us that benefits anyone other than himself. And so we didn't get to bet on it this week. But I thought it was a good pay-per-view. I was super happy that it happened. Dustin, you weren't in the pick'em, but you watched it. And so since you're the rookie in the class here, tell us about it. What were your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. I used to have this thing with AEW pay-per-views where I would watch it like it's a UFC pay-per-view. So I wouldn't even tune in until 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
I know this thing is going to go till like 1 a.m. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. So for whatever reason, I decided to tune in right at 8 o'clock. And you know what? It wasn't, you're saying, it wasn't a drag. It
right.
felt like it kept moving, and I wasn't overly upset with most of the things that happened, which AEW tends to make me upset.
Man, him and Fred are about to get along. This is not well. I've made a huge mistake. I have found a tag team partner for Freddie. This is a huge, colossal mistake.
Look, there's a million things I could say about it that I did not like, but I do want to focus on the things I do like. One of the things I thought was really cool, and something I've been begging for a long time, and they did a little bit of it, not a lot, but did a little bit of it, of a more of a sports-based presentation, mainly in the match with Danielson and Kingston, where before the guys came to the ring, you saw Lexi Nair say, "Hey, I'm talking about Danielson," or whomever it was. And then a shot right back to Renee doing the same thing.
Yeah.
As they were going to the curtain. Like, that feels like a UFC broadcast similar to what Megan Olivia would do as fighters are coming to the ring. Or the octagon in that case.
Yeah, okay.
That's something I want to see more of. And WWE's doing a lot more of that now, too, obviously with the new producer there. I feel like the more you can make me suspend my disbelief and think this is a legitimate fight, the more I'm going to enjoy the match. So there are times where it worked, the times where it didn't, but overall, it was a fine pay-per-view.
Okay. All right, I like it. Freddie, what about you, man? What were your thoughts? Let's see if you can get back to 0.
Yeah, no, listen. I mean, of course, I make my criticisms about AEW. I'm not shy about that. But I will say, normally their pay-per-views, while they can be long, usually do deliver. There's usually not a bad match on the show. Sometimes I think there's too many.
Agreed. And we've talked about that, yeah.
Even, unnecessary matches, but doesn't mean that the matches themselves aren't good. But I thought Revolution did move along pretty well. I thought the triple threat for the title was a good match. I thought Danielson and Kingston was a good match. The main event I thought was tremendous. I mean, I really enjoyed the main event. That's obviously the match that got me to watch the pay-per-view. The whole Sting retirement.
Sure.
And another big thing that I think really hasn't been talked about is one of the best parts of that show was the crowd.
Unbelievable.
They were there. Greensboro was live that night. And that's something that, unfortunately, AEW hasn't really had lately because, and this is not even a slight, it's just reality, the crowds have been small.
Yeah.
So that makes a huge difference in the TV presentation.
Sure.
But you heard the crowd on Sunday.
Yeah, they were unbelievable. Yeah, and I thought that the venue was super into it too. They were really cool because the venue made themselves a part of it. The baseball bat thing and all that stuff. Yeah.
It was cool. And it's a historic venue. I mean, I thought everything that they did, for everything wrong that AEW does, I think they did a great job from Sting's announcement of his last match to the last match.
Yeah.
So overall, I thought the show was good. What I went in for was the Sting retirement, and I didn't leave disappointed.
Sure.
The only thing I will say, if I have to give one criticism to it, the way it ended with the time being cut and Sting mid-sentence, that was only because, I get it, shit happens, but I would have liked a nice, clean shot,
sure,
and it go off,
Yeah, I think they should have at least tied that part up and then let him talk afterwards. I think the referee could have done a better job of framing it. Hey, here, because we are going off air. He did tell him, hey, we'll have a few minutes, but
live on YouTube to catch up, whatever, something.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I wish the show ended neater. But,
I agree.
It is what live TV,
I agree. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I love that AEW really took care of Sting. He comes in AEW, he doesn't lose a match, goes undefeated on his run. Of course, he's not going to win a world title being at his age, but he gets tag team titles and he gets to elevate a guy like Darby Allin, who hopefully, seeks a little spring up after his partnership.
You mean who hopefully doesn't die on a mountain that he's about to climb?
At first and foremost. But
like what?
Hopefully, he eventually comes back from Mount Everest, and they elevate him to being a star. Because I think AEW has a real problem right now promoting their homegrown stars, guys that have been in there from the ground floor almost. Look at all the guys that were on the pay-per-view. How many of them were homegrown? 2, 3, 4 maybe?
Yeah.
Max. Most of these talents are former indie WWE superstars that are in AEW. So you need guys like Hangman, Darby, MJF's obviously hurt, but when he comes back, to step back up, because I think it does take away of the future of AEW, especially if talent's going to be coming in and out in wild free agencies. And I'm digressing here a little bit, but I thought the pay-per-view was great. It was, I would say, a BB plus pay-per-view.
Sure.
You always know the match card. They're going to deliver. AEW produces great matches on their pay-per-views, and I just think they got to start diving into more consistent stories, and hopefully they catch a rhythm and get back to really competing with WWE.
Good point. I love it. That's a great point. Yeah, I think, like I said, overall, like you said, I mean, we talked about this last week, is that the star problem, do they have a star problem? And I think they do. From a homegrown perspective, I think that they just mismanage star power by either the weird booking sometimes or whatever it may be. I just think that they kind of and then, of course, they have a lot of injury issues right now, too, right? And they had the backstage politics issues, which makes it really, really difficult to continue on. So let me type in. I'm going to give us a few extra minutes on this next one here. Let me refresh that. But yeah, otherwise, AEW was a great pay-per-view. Revolution continues. I don't know that I love them going to 6 pay-per-views a year. I love the 4, and it does drag on with a lot of matches, which is why I think they do. But adding another one, man, it's tough. In April, luckily we split it, or else I don't know if I'd be able to afford AEW Dynasty with that. All right, our next topic. Oh, maybe. All right. Oh, there we go. I thought this was very funny, by the way. The Rock and Roman Express. Rock and Roman take over Smackdown. And let me hit the play here. Boom. Rock and Roman on Smackdown. Freddie, I know you're the big Rock fan, so I'm going to let you start before I give my opinion. What do you got for me?
Oh, Oscar worthy. I mean, I love every second of it. I watched the entire 38-minute segment again after SmackDown was over. I thought they nailed it out of the park. Again, just I spoke about it before, but I'm really enjoying the Rock heel turn. Unexpected. Don't want to see it long term, but in the short term, it's a lot of fun. It's a great ride that we're going on that, like I said, wasn't expected. And Rock's really diving into it. Like, he's not pussyfooting around being a heel. I mean, he is going in. He's calling people crackheads and, shit like that. I mean, and then the 21-minute promo that he cut on Instagram prior, which has been talked about a lot, also tremendous, right? So, but you know what my favorite part of the entire segment was the end. Because one thing that people have said in this whole thing, Roman kind of does look a little less than. Obviously, anybody is going to look less than next to The Rock. Even God himself may be a little less than The Rock next to him, So, excuse me, God. But anyway.
Pause for a gracious effect there.
As lightning strikes down. But no, so, Roman is Roman, but yes, since he's been next to Rock, of course, so when he stopped The Rock mid-sentence and said, I need one thing from you, I need you to acknowledge me, I went, what? And then The Rock fucking does it, and then he gives him the mic, and they do, if you smell what the bloodline is cooking. I mean, that made Roman, that made him strong as hell. Maybe stronger than his 3-year title reign has been. Just having The Rock acknowledge him was tremendous. I really thought they did a good job with that. And then the follow-up with, Seth and Cody was great. I'm looking forward to Friday night to see, obviously what unfolds. But I thought they really did a great job with Rock and Roman. advancing the storyline. We got Rock again on SmackDown this week, and next week.
All right.
So good stuff.
Okay. I'm going to let Danny go. Again, I'm going to let mine simmer for a few minutes. Danny, what about you, man? What are your thoughts on the Rock and Roman Express?
I got to quickly disagree with Fred that no one could handle The Rock like that. When you got a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin, who, if he appeared on TV, he would definitely be the guy that could take over that. But
that's a fair argument. I thought you were about to say Dolph Ziggler, which I was going to be like, no, wait a minute.
Ziggler reappears and he's over.
But no, that's a fair point.
Anyway, I mean, I love the ending of it. Like you said, I love the fact that, he acknowledges Roman. They go off, doing the pose. And then The Rock stops midway through. If you smell, hands it over to Roman. I thought that was a nice little touch as well. But I still feel the same way I did last week. Roman is being overshadowed, and I don't like that. He's the guy. He's the champion that's been on, although TV inconsistently, he's still the guy of WWE. And I get when you get a type A personality like The Rock and a type A personality like Roman, someone's probably going to take a little bit of a back seat. But I think Roman needs to do a little bit more than letting The Rock go on for 20 minutes, cutting the whole promo for the whole segment. I feel like Roman comes off as a secondary guy in that instant. But
I mean, you don't think you don't. I don't think. Look, how long was the segment, Fred? 38 minutes.
30.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Roman doesn't work 38 minutes, so The Rock had to carry the promo because Roman can't do that for 38 minutes. That's why The Rock had to do it.
Not working. No, one of the other parts I didn't mention that I liked was when Roman wanted to leave.
Oh, sure.
We can't because of Rock, and you could tell Roman throughout the promo was getting a little pissed. He was making some faces. Which I was good. So to Danny's point about Roman being overshadowed, I think they did a good job, though, with Roman looking like he was getting aggravated and then culminating with him telling The Rock he needed to go.
Yeah, like I said, I think production-wise, the subtleties that you don't see the first pass that you see or that people notice that people have posted that thing. Yeah, the Rock thing again. And then did you see the people were like Heyman looking at him when he's doing the L?
Yes.
And I was like, look, you don't notice that first pass, which is, like I said, the production value that WWE is doing with existing stories and then following up on social medias is because of the little things that they're doing is
the little things.
Yeah, it is unbelievable right now. I'm sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have any other points about it? Danny? No.
All good. I think case in point there.
Okay. What about you, Dustin, man? What are your thoughts on the Rock and Roman Express?
So I want to jump off a couple things here. Danny, you mentioned how it feels though Rock is overshadowing Roman. And I think you're right. But I also think that's by design. I think that's where this story is going. We're eventually going to get to a point where these guys collide. And it's going to be, look, you said you acknowledge me, but do you? Like, it's actions speak louder than words, right? So there's going to be a tension and like a match that is lit for these guys at some point, which I imagine then goes on to WrestleMania next year. And when you guys were talking about who can look across the ring from The Rock, and you mentioned Steve Austin, that would be cool as hell. Something that I have been preaching for so long, and I know it's not going to happen, but I think it would be cool if Cody was looking for a tag partner, and I know it's Seth Rollins now, but we can still brush him out of the way to make this possible. I really want Sting in that match. Like, I think Cody and Sting against The Rock and Roman Reigns would be incredible. Just the stare down between The Rock and Sting. That's all I really want. Like, I'm not asking Sting to wrestle the match. He can stand on the apron, let Cody do the entire thing. Let him take all the heat. Tag comes Sting, he does a Stinger splash, and tags Cody back in, let him do the rest of the match, right? Like, it's not going to happen. I get it. But it's just, there's a lot of fun things you can do with the pieces that are on the board right now. And right now it looks one way, but I'm sure it's going to go a few different other ways before we get to WrestleMania this year and next year. So I love it. I'm a big fan of everything that's happening right now.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, for me, the segment was, and I've talked about this in our group chat, The Rock is not on his cadence as far as like being able to deliver on his toes. I thought he said punk thing a lot, which is super weird. A tough guy or whatever. I was just like, what are you saying? I was like, please stop. Like, I beg you to stop. 38 minutes. It was about probably too. It was just honestly like 3 or 4 minutes, probably too long with that part of it, just because he was like kind of rambling at certain points, and I think he's getting his footing or whatever, right? With that, and if Gewurz is in fact back, helping him with the promos and writing that stuff and producing it. Overall, though, like I said, I think there's just nothing hotter right now in professional wrestling, and there's subtleties, and I think the cool thing is that we're alluding to all these things that could happen, but anything can happen, and nothing's set in stone. We don't know what's going to happen at Mania. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then. All of that is exciting, and that's what I lived for in professional wrestling. That's why we're fans, is that aura of we don't know what's going to... You're suspending disbelief for that time that you watch professional wrestling, and that's my favorite part, and right now they're delivering. That's why, like I said, I think it's really, really... I was really... And I truly wasn't trolling in the chat. I just felt like The Rock is a step behind right now on the mic, but of course he's The Rock, so he'll do his stuff and he'll get back over. But interesting enough, like I said, The Rock and Roman Express on SmackDown. What a great time. Anybody else? Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, I mean,
Fred, go ahead. I know you want to say one more thing.
It's just good shit. It's good shit.
You know what? I'm going to give you a point. Just because you held off and you didn't do the one. If you would have acknowledged him, I would have had to throw you out. But all right, moving on to the next one here. How about Cody and Seth on Raw? I thought Raw, we can talk about Raw as a whole as well. I'll kind of kick this one off. Cody and Seth, I think Seth is one of the best talkers. On the mic, he's one of the best promos in wrestling. Cody is, his vernacular and his vocabulary and the way that he delivers things is so poignant that it's just so good, right? He talks about the dog thing, and he was like, don't ever, and then he like looked right in the mic. I mean, he's produced so perfectly and presented at that point. You know what I mean? That's really what I mean. Like presentation-wise, he's presented, and so is Seth. Seth is presented. The top stars in WWE, and we talk about this, AEW, this is the main difference. WWE presents their people, and it's, again, you're talking about different producers, different styles, different creativity. I get all that. But WWE does present their people differently, and they do it slightly better. Even though AEW is different, they do what they're doing different a little bit, not as good, right? It's just kind of, there's sometimes it's hokey, for lack of a better term. But overarching, I thought Cody and Seth was really great. I'm excited that they're going to be on SmackDown tomorrow to beat down The Rock and Roman. Hopefully, my theory would be, and I thought this might be cool, is if they do a stomp, if they do get stomped out, if they get stomped out or they do the stomping out and like Roman books it out of the ring, like, yo, I'm out. You know what I mean? If he slides out, because he's kind of a shit heel, right? That's his thing now. His title reign didn't start like that, but with the full bloodline thing, it's really what it's been, right? Is he's kind of a shit heel with the solo stuff. So, all that to say, I think Cody and Seth is great. I also think Seth just continues to hit outfit after outfit every week, is unmatched. He's the best dressed man next to Cody. Cody has the best outfit in all of wrestling, right, with the suits, but Seth is unmatched right now and just does a great job. So that's kind of my thought on it. Dustin, what about you, man? What are your thoughts on Raw?
Okay, I'm the opposite for Seth Rollins. I can't stand his ridiculous outfits.
Well, you know what? Disagreeing with me gets you somewhere sometimes. This time it doesn't.
Okay. So there's a time and place for that, and I feel like when he gets to a point where he needs to be serious and we need to take him seriously, I think maybe then he can flip a switch and just be a jeans and a t-shirt kind of guy and say, I'm going to... Okay, I don't
know if he owns a jeans and t-shirt. I would love to see if he actually does own a pair of jeans.
I mean, they might be purple, but he may. You're right.
or they may be Becky's. I haven't decided. Who knows?
You know, it's... What we're seeing right now with Cody, I think, is... I don't want to say unprecedented, but it's something we haven't seen in a long time.
It's Hogan level babyface thing.
Right, that's kind of where I'm going with it. It's Steve Austin level to a point where I look back and I think of guys like maybe John Cena, who obviously biggest babyface they've had since Hogan, probably.
Sure.
If you think of like the tenure, like it blows Steve Austin out of the water.
Yeah.
But there was a segment of the audience that hated John Cena. Like you'd always come out and get that mixed reaction every time he came out. Cody gets no mixed reaction. Everyone loves this guy. The kids love him. The women love him. The men love him. It's everyone just seems to love this guy. So it's an incredible thing that we're witnessing right now. I think the Seth Rollins aspect of it is what makes me like it less.
Sure.
But, PJ, you mentioned something interesting about SmackDown on Friday. If Roman's going to be the one that kind of bails out, I wonder if it's The Rock that bails out.
That would be cool, too, yeah.
And that goes back to the story of overshadowing Roman. It's like, are you in this?
Sure.
Are you? Like, there needs to be that level of doubt in the mind of Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania. Of, is this guy on my side or isn't he? Like, is he really out for himself or is he with the blood?
Sure.
Like, what is his true motivations? And I think that gray area is what's going to make this a lot of fun. And we still don't know what's happening with Jey Uso at WrestleMania. Like, obviously, Jimmy and Jey are probably fired up. So if there is some sort of physicality that happens on Friday, I feel like if the bloodline gets the better of Seth and Cody, maybe that's when Jey gets implemented into this.
Yeah.
And we still have Tama Tonga maybe popping up at some point as well.
Man, can you imagine a Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series elimination match? Jimmy, Roman, Solo, and like one other person taking on like The Rock, Jey, Tama, like unbelievable. But before we do talk, I got to go back to your point. You were talking about the Cody thing being presented like the John Cena babyface. And I thought about this when you said that. I was thinking about this recently. The one thing people about John Cena was he just kept winning, and there was never this like, you just never thought he was gonna lose, right? The Super Cena thing. Whereas like with Cody, there's a chance that he could lose all the time, the way he's presented. And I think that's what makes him even more of a babyface, because people want him to actually win. It's not like he started from the bottom. He's like, they want him to be the champion, right? It's like this like undying need for Cody to be champion. And I thought about that when you said the Cena thing. I never really put two and two together until I thought about the way that Cena was booked. I mean, Cena never lost. When they decided he was the guy, he never lost again for like, after his first title reign. Like his world title, he never lost until then.
Cody hasn't lost much either, if you think about it. Like he lost, I think, one to Lesnar and one to Roman. But you're right. The way he's presented, it can happen at any time. Freddie, I feel like before we started recording, you mentioned you went to WrestleMania last year.
Oh, yeah, we've been to all of them. Yeah,
so
Freddie been to all of them.
I was there as well. So we were all there. Yeah. That feeling of when Cody lost at WrestleMania last year was one of the most deflating feelings I've ever felt.
Yeah, for me, there's a picture they send in the group chat every week of me. Every week it gets sent at some point. Fred over here is he's throwing up his ones for like an hour while we watch the entrance. I don't think his arm ever went down. I think he even held it up at one point like this just so he could make sure it was still there. This guy never stopped acknowledging. I'm the only one. Look, I was the only one in the entire group there last year deflated. I got promos cut by all three of these jabronis. Freddie, Miguel, Gersino, everyone's cutting a promo. It's the worst feeling of all time. That's why I've said, when we go to Mania this year, if Cody loses, Miguel will no longer live. He will cease to exist because I will crossroads him off of the top of Lincoln Financial through a table.
Because you know that if Cody does lose, you're never going to hear the end.
And I've already said that, right? I was like, look, I will admit defeat. I said I will acknowledge Miguel. I will acknowledge Roman if Cody loses. But go ahead, Fred. I'm sorry.
No, I would go off topic, though, real quick. I'm going to, if you don't mind. Do we think that Cody can lose twice?
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely.
But, like, I was fine with him losing last year because I believe in the story and I believe, like, where we're at now. Right? So I was not like happy that he lost, but I was like, I get it. Like we're building and here we are. Can they do that again? When is too much? You know, do we care now if he loses again? Do we really still care at WrestleMania 41 if he wins it? I mean, when is too far, you know?
Here's the thing though, like the whole finish the story thing. I love the concept of it, but we've never been explained what the story is in detail. The fact that it has to be at WrestleMania, I think, is ludicrous. Like, I think what makes sense to me is that he wins the title from Roman Reigns at Madison Square Garden. To me, that makes the most sense. So
I wouldn't be mad about that.
I'm going to look. If Cody loses a second time, I will legitimately be done. For a while, I honestly, there is no scenario in my brain right now that Cody loses at WrestleMania 4. There's no scenario that's even possible.
It might be a scary sight in Philadelphia.
Dude, that's like low-key Montreal Screwjob level. Like, people are going to be like, no, bro. No, we don't accept that. Look, we know it's predetermined. I know that wrestling is predetermined. That doesn't make it any better when the wrong thing happens. Okay? That doesn't make it any better. And I can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, we'll see.
Danny, do you have any thoughts on Raw? I know we kind of jumped through it, but Danny, you got any thoughts on Raw?
Of course, I have some thoughts. First of all, I agree with Dustin that Cody doesn't necessarily have to win at Mania to finish.
Well, see, I was going to give you points. Now I'm taking those back. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he's winning the prize that his father could never win, and you can even tie in more things to it. You could say, what Cody has done for wrestling, period. Helping start All In, helping start AEW. It's kind of monumental to see where he started and where he's at now. I think Seth being the partner of Cody, I get it. They want to have an active wrestler in there, but that wouldn't have been my first choice. I actually probably would have picked Triple H. I was hoping that after the press conference, Triple H was going to be the guy that backs Cody in the corner. And the reason for that is you got the Triple H ties to Dusty and NXT. You got Triple H, who was in WWE the same time as Cody Rhodes, coming all the way up through the 2000s into the 2010s. You get Cody, taking the sledgehammer to the throne. There's so many tie-ins to where Triple H actually would have made great sense to supporting Cody, but we figure that Triple H could probably never get in the ring again with the heart problem. So I get it. Seth does have the ties to Roman, and you could tie it into the story and make it make sense. But I just feel that I would have liked a legend that would be a part of it, just like The Rock is for Roman and that Bloodline storyline.
The H is the authority thing would have been cool, like Triple H coming out, like when he did with the Steam thing when he turned.
It's too bad that we're not going to get Triple H in the ring, because I do think that would have been really cool to have him involved in this, and I think it would have made perfect sense.
Especially at the press conference.
Yeah. What if they did like a double swerve where H and Rock both swerve on their team partners? That would have been cool. Like if Triple H turns on Cody, but then Rock turns on Roman, and then they're like, now.
That's another tie-in too, though. The history of Triple H and The Rock.
Well, yeah.
Being posed in the 90s into the 2000s. It's like.
I think the main reason they did the Triple H thing, and this is a little like tinfoil hat thing, but with the Rivals, A&E Rivals coming out and then promoting that's why they did the Rock and H segment of them still. I just feel like they're so good at tying everything together.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me reaching, but that's kind of how it feels like they have a plan.
There are things that happen that we don't know about. There's reasons things happen we don't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which are awesome. Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, that was another great segment, and we're going to get more tomorrow, right? With Cody, Seth.
Deduct yourself a point for saying that Cody's the best dressed in WWE.
Who's better? Who?
Oh no,
the Miz's suit game is by far number one.
Bruh. I'm not. First off, I don't deduct points from me. What I look like. Second off, The Miz is actually really great. So I'm going to give you a point just for mentioning The Miz because I really like him. He does a great job.
I'm a Miz guy, so.
Yeah, that's fair. You're a Miz Mark. All right, this is a fun one. We're going to mix it up. That's actually the last of the things that we're going to talk about, just regular stuff, right? We talked a lot about it because wrestling right now is overtaken, right? Revolution was such a huge thing, and we talked a lot about Sting last week, and then we talked a lot about Revolution. We talked Rock and Roman and all those things, but I've got this new handy-dandy moment that we're going to do right here. Just for you. All right. Look at that. Got it in there. Trivia time it is. So you call yourself a fan. All right. I have not seen these answers. I have not looked at them in a long time. This is WWF. I'm sorry. I got my light today. WWF trivia questions. I do know last time I looked at these, there are questions that even I had no idea way before we were all born. But that's what kind of makes it fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to go question by question. There are points. A correct answer is worth 1 point to everybody's board. A wrong answer does not hurt you. But yeah, so I have not seen the questions or the answers. and I have to kind of hold it up with this thing to the back so that you can't see it.
Is this the Cardinal trivia game, by the way?
No, I did get one, but that's for next time. I've gotten this. That's a newer version that I just got, and so I thought we would do something a little different, and we're calling it trivia time. So, first question, and everybody's going to give an answer. We're going to mix it up. Who gives their answer first? Because it is not really multiple choice. So, first up, who sang "America the Beautiful" at WrestleMania 5? And Freddie, you get to go first.
Rockin' Robin.
Rockin' Robin. Okay. Dustin, what is your thoughts?
Jesus. WrestleMania 5 was in Trump Plaza.
Yep.
That doesn't help me.
No.
So I'm going to say it was Aretha Franklin.
Okay.
I know it's not.
That's the same. I'm going to say Aretha as well, and I think that's incorrect, and I can't for the life of me. If Fred's correct, I'm going to blow my mind up. What about you, Danny?
For some reason, I feel like the dating is off, but like Whitney Houston would be there, but the safe answer I feel like is Aretha, because I remember Vince going, Aretha Franklin, and his...
But I'm pretty sure that that's WrestleMania 3. I'm pretty sure that that's WrestleMania 3,
It
but...
was actually...
I'll stay with it, though.
It was 3 and 23. I think she did it again.
Okay.
They did a really good job with that, the transition.
And Fred gets the point. It is Rockin' Robin.
Oh, damn.
Unbelievable. Great job, Freddie. I love that. All right.
You want me to tell you all the American Beautifuls from
Now, you know what? I feel like I know most of them, but 5 threw me. I was like, that's so weird because that's the Mega Powers explode.
I don't know, like the last 10 years.
That's
I
fair.
can't tell who did last year?
Yeah, I don't know. Me neither. I have no idea. But I can tell you 1 through.
Wait, didn't I see it last year? And I was like, oh, I love that. It was it was Jimmy Allen. It was Jimmy Allen who sang it last year.
And now it's hard because now there's 2 different people. They do it with different person.
Right. All right, we got question number 2. So Freddie got the point there. Number 2, 93 Survivor Series. First man out of the All-American Foreign Fanatics was Undertaker, Lex Luger, or Rick Steiner. Danny, you get to go first.
Steiner, I guess.
Okay. Freddie?
I'm going to say Undertaker.
Okay. Dustin?
So when you say first man out, you mean eliminated?
Yeah, the first man eliminated.
I imagine it's Steiner.
I am also going to say Steiner as well, and I got to slide this up slowly so I don't look. It is Steiner. So we get a point. Freddie, you don't get a point there. Wow, it's weird that you thought... I've never seen Taker lose first ever, but that's good.
And you know why, though? I thought Steiner seemed too obvious, and I thought maybe like there was some some DQ bullshit that made Taker have to go out, you know?
Well, Steiner's actually left right after this, so that's probably why. All right, these are all Survivor Series, actually. At the 91 Survivor Series, one team was Legion of Doom and El Matador, Big Boss Man, or Virgil. This is 1991. And Dustin, you get to start off, sorry.
Let's go with Virgil, R.I.P.
Virgil. Yeah, shout out to my man Mike Jones. Danny.
Virgil as well.
Freddie.
I'm going to be contrary here. I'm going to say Big Boss Man.
I am also going to say the Big Boss Man. And it is Big Boss Man.
All right.
Way to go. Way to go. All right, we're mixing it up. All right, 1987 Survivor Series. This is the first ever. In Richmond, Ohio, which is wild, by the way. Dayton was a bigger city in Ohio for the longest time until people realized they could go to Ohio. They go to Columbus and have a wrestling there. It was super weird. We didn't have an arena big enough back in the day for them to come to Columbus, even though it was the capital. So they would always go to Dayton. Super weird. In 1987 Survivor Series, what team eliminated Strike Force? There is no multiple choice.
Oh, shit.
And I will kick this one off. The team that eliminated Strike Force because they break up at WrestleMania 4 the very next month is Demolition. So, Dustin, your thoughts?
I'm going to go with Power and Glory.
Power and Glory. Okay, good choice. All right, Danny?
87, I'm thinking the Hart Foundation was around there. I'll go Foundation.
Okay, Foundation. Freddie?
They all sound like they could be right. I'm gonna say the British Bulldogs, just to name a different team.
Okay, it was the Hart Foundation.
Wow, look at
Unbelievable, Danny, with the absolute deep in the queue shot. Okay, man.
The only reason why I thought that was because I'm thinking of like the LJNs came around like '87.
That's true.
That would be a big tag team. At that
Yeah.
point, so
Okay.
They were. I mean, they were. Yeah, they were.
All right, that was a good one. All right, last one. Who was the Intercontinental Champion on the Pile Driver video album? So when Pile Driver came out, Freddie, it's on you, buddy.
Don Morocco.
Okay, wow, what a reach. That may be true. I just don't want to reach. Danny?
Ugh, I wish you didn't have that. I don't even know when the time frame is of that. So
that is way too early. Don Morocco is way too early.
Did you say Bulldog? Okay, well, we know that's absolutely wrong. But Dustin, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Macho Man Randy Savage.
But okay, I am gonna go with Honky Tonk Man because he was the champ for like 9 years. The answer is Honky Tonk Man. Let's go.
There you go. Pile Driver came out in like 86, 87.
Yeah. Pile Driver.
I had a better guess.
I know that was a tough one, but kind of fun though, right? So I've got all these. They go around. The answers are on the back. It's kind of a fun thing. And as Danny mentioned, I did get a new game last week. I am on a video game collection. For those wondering, you can check me out on @PJ North on YouTube. I've got the Saturday Night Slam Masters Wrestling Video Game Challenge, where I'm on the hunt to collect all wrestling video games, regardless of console, which is kind of cool. I've got a huge collection from when I was younger, so that's kind of where that came out. It sounds great. Trivia time. We really did it, man. We really did it. Let me go back here. All right. This is my favorite one. One has to go. We are on... I'm going to drop this to 6. We're going to do it. One has to go, where I pick some of the best parts of a wrestler's career, and you got to get rid of one of those time frames. We've had some good ones. And we've had some bad ones, but we did have some good ones. So we did Sting last week. We all kind of mixed it up. I picked AEW Sting because I loved all the others. But this week is specifically for my man Freddie Fresh. We've got The Rock. And to kick it off, in the top left is Rock's first world title reign, where he joins the corporation. On the top right is when he overtakes Triple H's reign of terror. Bottom left is Hollywood Rock, and bottom right is Rock of today. So you got to pick between those. One has to go. And Fred, I'm starting with you.
Oh, God, this is hard.
You need me to put it on the screen again so you can see?
Hollywood Rock, because I was pissed that he turned heel. And I just didn't, it wasn't the Rock I knew, and I didn't like it. But now, hindsight, I think Hollywood Rock is one of the best things he's done. Oh, God, you know what? I'm going to have to go with Corporate Rock, because I was really pissed when he turned heel at Survivor Series that year and won the title. I wasn't pissed that he had won the title. I was pissed that he turned heel and won the title. So it pains me to do it, but I'm going to go with Corporate Rock.
All right, Corporate Rock. That's a good one. You got some points there. Dustin, one has to go. Who you picking, man? You need to see him again for you?
So it's definitely not going to be current Rock, because what they're doing right now is just so cool and so fun. And there's so many different avenues where it can go. So that one stays.
Okay.
Freddie, I agree with you. At the time, I hated Hollywood Rock. But looking back at it now, incredible stuff. And what that era of Rock gave us was the best Rock theme that there's ever been. That Hollywood Rock theme with the helicopter coming in, it was a 1-minute long intro for that ridiculous entrance. Fantastic stuff. I hope he goes back to it, actually.
I was going to say, shouldn't he come? I've been saying that the last couple weeks. I mean, yes, eventually you go back to If You Smell. That's iconic. But I think for this run, he should be using that. I don't understand why he hasn't yet.
I bet at Mania he does.
Yeah, you're damn right. That's my vision for his big WrestleMania entrance. Maybe do an actual helicopter floating over the open.
Sure.
There's legs here to this idea. Anyway.
Charlotte did it at 35, but like pre-recorded. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do that shit live.
You didn't pick one yet, Dustin. Who are you picking?
Oh, I'm getting there. We're down to the first two. I will keep original corporate Rock.
Okay.
Because I think at the time they needed that character. If you
Sure.
look at some of the turnover in the WWF at the time, where Shawn Michaels was on his way out, and Steve Austin was there, but they didn't quite elevate Mick Foley yet, and Triple H wasn't quite elevated yet. By the time we get to that second Rock, and this is the one I'm getting out of here, I think they were in a healthier position with their stars that they could have did without that version of The Rock.
Okay.
Triple H was elevated. Mick Foley was elevated. Undertaker was still in the mix. Big Show was coming around that time. So I feel like that Rock can go because there was enough star power to support the rest of the company.
All right. So he's doing away with Triple H, and he ended Triple H's reign, Rock. All right, Danny. What about you, man?
I'm disappointed in you guys. How do you not get rid of Current Rock?
Thank you.
The Rock is a legend. Everything he has done in his past has led up to what he is now. He is one of the greatest of all time. In the ring, on the mic, everything. I could easily deal without Current Rock. And this is coming from a day one diehard Rock fan. Like, when he was a heel in the 90s, when he was a heel in the 2000s, I was still a Rock guy. And then it grew into Dolph Ziggler, which has led me to misery. So, yeah, Current Rock, I mean, this is a star-studded WWE roster. I get The Rock is going to bring eyeballs. It's going to cause attention, whether it's to a wrestling fan or even some of the throwback wrestling fans I don't watch anymore. But let Cody be the star of the show. Give him his shine. Let him take over. You got guys like Rollins, McIntyre, Punk. The names go on and on. We don't need Rock on TV.
Okay. All right. Well, I am also in agreement with that. I'm getting rid of Current Rock. I get it. It's cool. I do love that he's back. But he had such an iconic. Everything they did back then, he was needed for at that time. To the ending, the Triple H's reign thing was cool. The corporation Rock was amazing turn. So yeah, I'm also getting rid of today's Rock, which is what a conundrum. Me and Danny on agreement today, and Danny takes the lead with it.
It can't be compared to what he's done from
Sure.
the 90s to now. Like,
Sure.
If one has to go, it's got to be that.
Sure. I love that. I'm going to give him one more point just because I like it. Just because I love that feedback, Danny. Way to go. Danny keeping it together here today for us. I love that.
Right.
I love that. All right. We're on to the next part. This is probably my second favorite part. I love these creative segments we get to do. We talk about some things that you might not normally get to do. This is best of the worst. You got to pick one. Unfortunately, you have to keep one. So last week we got to do which ones did we do last week, Danny? I can't remember.
HBK?
Yeah, well, that's right. We did HBK gear. Sorry, HBK gear.
Yeah.
That's right. The HBK gear one was quite amusing, and we did wrestlers under a hood at their worst part of their careers. So kind of a fun one. This week, due to WWE 2K24 coming out, as you guys know, like I said, I'm on a wrestling video game kick. I've been trying to collect all of them, and I have WWE 2K24. It's amazing. I do love it. I wish I was being paid for this right now. It's great. The gameplay is pretty cool. The showcase is awesome. They blurred out McMahon. Brock, unfortunately, does still beat Undertaker. I don't know why they would have just not changed that one, but
I think they should take Brock away,
especially because he's not a usable character. Like, they could have just deleted 30 and not done it. It was such a big WrestleMania, and they can't do the Daniel Bryan thing. But at the same, they could have taken that part out. But nonetheless, WWE video game or WWF video games is the first one. So you got to pick one. These are the worst. I don't know if you guys are gamers, but. Starting with top left, Warzone. Quintessential bad video game. The gameplay's terrible. It's kind of a cool creative player, but for the most part, that version of beat 'em up WWF games were not my favorite. Top right, WWF Attitude. Another one very similar to Warzone, just not one of my favorites. Did have a lot of cool characters in it, and again, the creative player is fun. Bottom left is WWF In Your House. Which is I hate arcade style fighter. I don't hate them. I'm just not good. That's not my style of video game. And WWF In Your House and the WrestleMania game just weren't really my favorite. So that's bottom left. And then bottom right is the worst WWF video game of all time, WWE. It's knowingly admitted they shut down the servers. They kept WWE 2019 up because WWE 2K20 was so bad. So those are the 4 we got to pick from. And again, if you're not a gamer, I'm sorry, but I had to do this for my sake. So those are the best of the worst WWF video games. And I'll kick it off. I've got to pick one. If I have to keep one, I guess I'll keep Attitude, just because it was a better version of Warzone. So I'm going to go with WWF Attitude. I played a lot on the PlayStation. I had all of them, Smackdown, Smackdown 2, all of the Smackdowns on PlayStation 2, and so on and so forth. I've had every WWF video game that has ever come out on a PlayStation or Xbox. I don't have the GameCube ones yet, but hope to get those. So I'm going to go with WWF Attitude as my pick. It's again, it's a terrible video game, but if I had to keep one, that's what I was going to do. Freddie, what about you, man? Were you a gamer when you were younger? Which one are you picking?
So I did used to love the wrestling games back in the day. I had my first one, which is why I'm partial to it, even though it wasn't good. My first one was Warzone. I got it for Christmas in '98, along with a PlayStation. So,
oh man, that's a Christmas in itself, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to stick with Warzone.
So, now Warzone was my first one, and I loved it, but I remember Attitude then came out that next summer in '99, and I was so excited for it. And the reason I was so excited for it was because I had just started watching wrestling in like the fall of '98, so like a couple of months before I got the game.
Okay.
And a lot of the people in the roster, like I knew of them a little bit, but not great.
Sure.
So by Attitude, I knew, like I was familiar with the people in the game. I was familiar with the scenario, like everything.
Sure.
So I'm going to keep Attitude.
Okay.
As well.
I love that. All right, Danny. What about you, man? Were you a big gamer?
I wasn't a huge gamer, but I was a gamer enough to play all these. And without question, if I'm picking the best of the worst, I loved In Your House. I used to remember playing with my brothers and friends, and we would do like tournament style. So that way, like, winner moves on, and we're duking it out to the very end. So it's not the best of games, but it's just so nostalgic to my childhood. I loved all the gimmicky like backgrounds and like the tricks they used to do, and it brought back good memories. So
okay,
that's
sticking within your house. All right, Dustin, man, what about you? What's your thought on the video game life?
I feel like all of these games, with the exception of 2K20, have redeeming qualities.
Sure,
you can look back at Attitude and say, okay, at the time, this was cool because it had good music in it, and the roster wasn't huge, but it was a 3D video game that didn't exist in this world, right? So I understand why that was cool. Attitude was everything that Warzone was, but even better. The creation suite was better.
Yep.
The gameplay still sucked, but it was
so bad.
It was our bad game. Like, as a PlayStation fan, you didn't have the luxury of playing Revenge or
that's the thing, right? Being a PlayStation gamer, that's the one thing that was so... I had to go next door because they had WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. But like before then, they didn't have that. They had the Attitude that sucked on 64. And they had Warzone that sucked on 64 too.
One of the main...
individual games. But Smackdown came, though, and changed the whole game.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to Smackdown. But like one of the main reasons why there's a CRT television back here is because I literally have an N64 set up specifically for No Mercy.
Okay.
So, as a PlayStation kid growing up, Attitude was my jam.
Yeah.
That was the one that was the best of what you had in that era. I will give some points to In Your House because at the time, if you think about the big fighting games between mainly Mortal Kombat, it was the same art style and the same, not the same engine necessarily, but it was Midway, I believe. So
Acclaim. Well, you talking about In Your House? Yes, In Your House is like the midway before.
Right? Yeah, so it makes sense of why that game existed in the way it did. It didn't translate to the best wrestling game, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be a fighting game with wrestling characters.
Sure.
Also, shout out to the Coliseum home videos at the time
with the cheats on it.
With Todd Pettengill, giving you like cheats of how to play this game.
Yeah, dude.
In the WrestleMania one.
Yeah.
So all of them like have redeeming qualities, but for me, Attitude was my game, man. I love Attitude.
All right. Yeah, I like I said, the funny thing is that Warzone and Attitude gameplay was so bad, and ECW was like, nah, we're gonna double down. We're gonna use Acclaim. so bad. I was like, y'all have the opportunity to do something different. This is what y'all did? Okay. Kind of wild though. That SmackDown came and just changed everything, like you said, Fred. I'll never forget. My mom picked me up. I used to go to Kidscape, which was the after-school program, right? And she would pick me up, and she had SmackDown, and I was like, life changed. Let's go. WCW versus the World. I was really upset that when they made No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000, they didn't do the same thing on PlayStation because they had WCW versus the World, which was very similar game system, but the porting, I guess, with how that all worked out was a little different. But nonetheless, big wrestling game fan. Kind of a fun one to go through the best of the worst. All right, best of the worst for the next one. These ones are pretty bad. I'm not going to lie to you guys. They're pretty bad, but it's kind of fun that way. It is wrestling big men in their worst versions. So top left, you've got Oz, Kevin Nash in the top left. In the top right is Paul White when he debuted, whatever that was. Bottom left, Isaac Yankem, DDS, the original DMD. And on the bottom right is Festus. So all these guys, of course, go on to have huge careers and all of those things. But at first, they were terrible. So Oz, Paul White, Isaac Yankem, and Festus. Got to pick one. Dustin, which one are you keeping?
Oh, boy.
And again, remember, they are stuck in that character for their entire career.
Okay, that changes things, because the way I was thinking of it...
No, you don't get them as a person afterward. They are stuck in that part of their career.
Okay, so yeah, the way I was thinking was Isaac Yankem was probably the best because he still had main event matches with Bret Hart. So, like, of those guys that were on that board, he was the biggest star in that gimmick, unfortunately. If you think of Paul White, he had a memorable moment. Like, that debut, I still think about that debut. That was an incredible...
That's Freddie's favorite pay-per-view.
St. Valentine's Day Massacre, 1999.
Well, it was my first one, so I'm very, very partial to it.
It was a cool debut. It was a very creative finish to that match, so I don't hate that. Oz was horrendous. Like, that was some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
I couldn't decide if I should put him as Oz or as Vinny Vegas. But I went with Oz because it's obviously much worse.
So I can't keep Oz because Kevin Nash is too good. And I'll keep Festus, I guess. And I'm not a huge Bullet Club guy, and I don't think the contribution after Festus is that important versus Big Show versus Kane versus Kevin Nash. So I'm going Festus.
All right. He's keeping Festus. All right, Danny. Who are you keeping?
I'm going to go with Paul White. And, I mean, he's Paul White now in AEW technically, so...
He's Captain Insano, but that's fine.
He could have made it work. Like, if he would have just ran his WWE career as Paul White, I still think he would have been the feared powerhouse giant, that he was in WCW and that he ended up being as the Big Show in WWE. So I feel like it wasn't an outrageous gimmick. He was just him. So I feel like it would have been seamless for him to make work.
My only thing with that is, of all the things that McMahon loved to change, he was like, nah, Paul White's what we're going with. Like, what? Okay. Weird. Fred, what about you, man? Which one you keeping?
Yeah, just on the simple reason that I love that pay-per-view and I love that debut, and I remember being like, holy shit. Because I was familiar, because I had actually started watching WCW first, and so I was familiar with the Giant and all that. So yeah, Paul White. I'm gonna stick with Paul White. Maybe change the hair, but it's but
Okay.
the name and everything.
Okay.
But it was Vince that actually came up with the name The Big Show.
Okay.
And Paul White and Big Show, Paul White, whatever, actually hated it. He thought
it's a horrible name.
Right?
Yeah.
And isn't it funny how some of these names, like, it's just part of our vernacular now? Like, The Big Show, right?
Right.
But when you really think about it, like, The Big Show, if you got told that's going to be, you probably would say, too, that's fucking stupid.
Well, that's the same thing we talk about with all the name changes, right? Some of them do end up working out, like The Big Show and Gunther, right? I mean, I haven't called him Walter in so long now.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. That's a good way to put that, Freddie. I like that. I'm going to keep... I am going to keep Isaac Yankem. Kane had some great, cool shit, but Isaac Yankem, I was so scared of this. He had the most disgusting... How did he get... I want to know how Kane got straddled with all of the augmentation things, right? Like he had the long hair, but he didn't actually have long hair. Then he got strapped with the weird haircut as Kane, but he also got strapped with terrible teeth. Those were dentures or whatever, right? Those are the grossest things of all time, and bad teeth creep me all the way out. So I was like all the way disgusted. And everything that Bret Hart got put through back then weirded me out. Like kissing the feet, and they were doing all the gross stuff with the King, and then Backlund. And I was just like, what is happening right now during the new generation? I am so confused. And I was creeped out. You know, my dentist was a super old guy, so I was like, damn, they got this dude just like with a drill in people's mouth. So I wasn't a huge, but I'm going to keep Isaac Yankem.
The worst music.
Yeah, it's the screeching, right? It's like the...
If you want to call it that.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff back then. Yeah, a lot of, well, I heard on a podcast once, it was like the new generation full of job-based professional wrestlers. You were either a trash man, a dentist, what was the other one? A king,
the hockey player, and the
the hockey player. I mean, they had a bunch, right? So kind of crazy, but that was the best of the worst, and we have come to our end here. We are just over an hour. I'm keeping it right on time. I've been doing pretty good, I feel like, with the timing. But before we go, we're gonna get some gimmicks in here. Everybody's gonna get their gimmick over. This is not box of gimmicks, but Danny, I texted yesterday. Danny's a poor texter for some odd reason, and I asked him for some help. He did not respond. And so, with that being said, I also learned that you cannot buy single packs of WWE cards.
Not really anymore, no.
No, so I was stuck, right? So I get home, I'm like, well, Danny didn't respond anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm clearly not on his top friends list. But I have an entire collection of WWE and WCW trading cards. So I thought it would be funny if I picked out a handful to go through just to see how little value they have. So one of the things that they did back in the 90s, right, they did the red and yellow cards. You've seen these, right, Danny, of course, right?
Yep.
So I have the whole collection, except they're numbered. So I realized I thought I had the whole collection. I don't have number one Sting, which is, he's the first one, so I don't know how rare that is. But I have 2 through whatever. And I don't have the first tag team card, which is a Steiner Brothers tag team card. But just to go through some of these, which I find super amusing, Steiner Brothers, but it's just Scott. It's just Scott on the front. Like, it's the Steiner Brothers card, but it's just Scott. But then on the back, just full of useful information. So if we were doing a tearing right now, this would be worth -5 cents. This just counts as a L. It gets worse. Southern Boys, a point for if anybody who can tell me who that is right there on the card.
Tracy Smothers.
That is Tracy Smothers. That actually is Tracy Smothers. It's not the other. I thought it was Armstrong. No, it is Armstrong.
Oh, damn it.
It's Steve Armstrong. I was like, wait a second. That is Steve Armstrong. Good guess, though. So another bad one. Oh, but here's a good one, though. Doom, where it's just Butch Reed decapitating some poor jobber, which I thought was kind of fun. But that's it. There's only 3 tag teams, and there's like 100 cards in here. Yeah. At least that's what I thought. Then it gets to the really good ones. Jimmy Jam Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes.
Of all time.
Yeah, they're pretty terrible. But they're kind of cool. When I pulled out this bag of cards that I have in my collection, I had some that were Pogs that I had cut the holes out, would use the Pog machine to make Pogs. So kind of fun. I do have all the announcer cards, so my collection is near full. I haven't seen those out in the wild, but I thought that was kind of cool. So check out Filthbomb Wrestling and Filthbomb Breaks. Danny, give me a quick spiel about Filthbomb, really quick.
Well, first of all, I usually always answer you. It's
fine.
Yesterday.
It's fine. Don't worry.
I didn't bring you back, but Filthbomb Wrestling and Card Foundation Pod. That's the podcast and our breaking entity. So buy, sell, trade wrestling cards. We focus on other collectibles too, but we talk about the market of cards, investing in them, collecting them. It's a great show, so tune in. They had a really great. You had a really big break. I just saw too. You guys got like some really banger cards right on the slab. Yeah, we hit a monster Rhea Ripley. It was a short printed out of 10 from Select, which actually on our show was voted the card of the year by our listeners. So
Wow.
Ami's over in the card world right now.
Man, I'm gonna give him a point just for being over. That was amazing. Yeah, I saw it on Slide, and I'm learning some of the vernacular of collection stuff. So
I'll lead you right through it if you want to get into it.
yeah, I don't need to spend any more money. I'm trying to collect video games.
No, it's a dangerous game.
Freddie, fresh man, thanks for joining as always. Freddie, what do you got for me? Anything? Any last comments you want to say? You want to plug Viacom or Fox or what?
Had fun tonight talking wrestling. We're getting closer and closer to WrestleMania. Looking forward to it. Can't wait for Smackdown. The Rock, Roman Reigns, Seth, Cody, all in the same house. Dallas, Texas, live. So.
It is live. We are super excited about it. And Dustin Perie, man, Dustin, thank you for joining us the first time. Canada's own, again, Smash Wrestling in Northern Crown. He's the lead commentator, or play-by-play, I should say, at Northern Crown, and he is the announcer for Smash, and also 43.6 podcast. Shoot your shot there, Dustin. What do you got for us?
Yeah, you nailed it. If you go to YouTube and you check out Northern Crown, I'll be your play-by-play guy on that. If you go to YouTube, you check out Smash Wrestling, which I think has some of the best production values in any independent on the planet today. So it's worth checking out. I'll be your ring announcer there. Sometimes I play-by-play there too. It all depends. But every week I do have a sports podcast as well. It's called 43.6. I, off the cuff one day, said it's the sports podcast you always wanted, and that's become our tagline.
Love that.
So it's the Toronto podcast or Toronto sports podcast scene is kind of in shambles. So we wanted to create something that we thought was serving a need. And if you are into football, you're into baseball, you're into hockey, you're into basketball, we cover it all, and we also cover wrestling when it's a big enough story. So that's worth checking out as well. I greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. This is Around the Mat, where we go around the mat and I get to judge everybody. Fred, unfortunately, won. I kind of slow played him on that one. Fred, I'm so sorry. I had the screen ready for 3 people, and then Dustin ruined that for you, so you're not getting the world title screen. But
Well, I don't need the world title screen, PJ, but all I need from you is to acknowledge me. Just like The Rock acknowledged Roman Reigns, I need you to acknowledge Fred DeCorte.
Freddie, I acknowledge no one. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. And that's how it's going down here at Around the Mat. Again, I am at the PJ North. Follow us at AroundTheMatPod. If you're watching live on Twitch, thank you guys for sticking around. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, like, subscribe, because it helps everyone and we want to get out there. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, thanks for checking us out. We'll be back again next time. We'll talk more wrestling. This is Around the Mat.
Every